I discovered my husband's hidden phone holding 2 years of messages to my best friend. Have you ever had your entire world collapse in an instant? Not with a bang, but with the quiet, sickening realization that everyone you loved was lying to your face? That's exactly what happened to me. And it all started with a hidden phone and a text from him. My husband Daniel and I had been together for 9 years, married for 7, with 2 amazing kids, Wyatt and Ella. For most of that time, I honestly thought we were the definition of couple goals. The kind of marriage other people admired. Then Mara came into our lives 5 years ago. She moved to the area and we just clicked. She didn't have family nearby, so we basically adopted her. She was at our house constantly, knew everything about my life, was there when Ella was born. She was my best friend, practically a sister. Daniel always got along with her too, which I loved because it meant we could all hang out easily. No weird tension. Or so I thought. The truth didn't come out in some dramatic movie scene. You know, like finding a damning text on his regular phone. It was way more pathetic. About 3 weeks ago, I was looking for an extra car charger. The one Daniel bought specifically for road trips. I checked the usual spots, then remembered he keeps random stuff under the passenger seat. So I popped open that little storage compartment, and there it was. A completely different phone, sleek black case, not his. I just stared at it frozen for a good 30 seconds. Why would he have a whole separate phone hidden in his car? My first thought naively was maybe it was an old one. But then I pressed the button. It lit up. Battery at 73%. Recent notifications on the lock screen. And one of them was a text preview from a contact saved as just the letter M. The message read, "Can't stop thinking about last Tuesday." With a heart emoji. My stomach dropped. I sat in that car in our driveway for 15 minutes just holding this phone. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it twice. Part of me, the part that wanted to preserve the fragile piece, screamed at me to put it back. To pretend I never saw it. Because deep down I already knew. But I couldn't. I had to know. The passcode was our anniversary date. Our anniversary. Can you believe the audacity? The text went back 2 years. 2 years. And they were all Mara. Not casual chats either. Full-blown relationship stuff. Plans to meet when I thought he was working late or at the gym. Inside jokes. Future plans. And yeah, explicit stuff that even now makes me feel physically ill just thinking about it. But here's the part that absolutely destroyed me. There were multiple conversations where they talked about me. About how they sometimes felt bad, but mostly how they thought I was too focused on the kids to even notice. How Daniel felt unappreciated. How Mara said she tried to feel guilty, but couldn't, because she genuinely thought they were meant to be together. They even discussed timelines. Literal timelines. For when Daniel could leave me. Waiting until Ella was in school full-time so it would be easier on the kids. Planning how they'd come out as a couple so people wouldn't judge them too hard. They had been planning this for years. While Mara sat at my kitchen table, listening to me talk about my marriage. While she helped me pick out anniversary gifts for Daniel. While she told me how lucky I was to have a guy like him. I screenshotted everything. Every single message thread. Every photo they'd sent each other. Everything. I was in that car for almost 2 hours. Then I emailed them to myself to a backup, saved them to a cloud folder. And then I put the phone back. Exactly where I found it. I needed time. To think. The next few days were the hardest of my entire life. Acting normal around Daniel, knowing what I knew. Seeing Mara's name pop up in our group chat. Making plans for her birthday party that weekend. And having to respond like everything was fine. I didn't tell anyone yet. I needed my ducks in a row. I called a lawyer, started quietly gathering financial documents. But I couldn't stop rereading those messages. Every time I thought I'd processed it, I'd find another conversation that made it worse. Like Daniel telling her he loved her. Like them joking about how oblivious I was. Or the one just 2 days before I found the phone, where Mara asked when they could see each other next, and Daniel said he'd figure out an excuse. Mara's birthday party was that Saturday. She'd rented out a section at a wine bar. Probably 30 people were invited, including our entire friend group. My original plan was to skip it and confront them privately. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. These two had been lying to everyone, not just me. Our friends thought Mara was this sweet single girl. They thought Daniel was this devoted husband. And I was just supposed to let them keep that image while they destroyed my life behind closed doors? No. If they wanted to act fake in front of everyone, I could too. Until I couldn't anymore. The party started at 7. I showed up at 7:30 wanting a crowd. Daniel had gotten there earlier, helping Mara set up. Now I know what set up really meant. When I walked in, he saw me, gave me this big fake smile and a wave. Mara came over, hugged me, told me she was so glad I made it. And I hugged her back. And I smiled. Happy birthday. I played along for about an hour, waiting for more people to arrive. Around 9:30 I couldn't take it anymore. Mara was opening gifts, everyone gathered around, and Daniel was standing right next to her, helping hand her presents, like they were already a couple hosting a party together. And something in me just snapped. I didn't yell. My voice, surprisingly, was pretty calm when I spoke. I waited for a pause, then I just said loud enough for everyone to hear. Before you open any more gifts, I think everyone here should know that Mara has been sleeping with my husband for 2 years. The room went silent. Daniel immediately started sputtering. You don't know what you're talking about. Mara looked like she was going to pass out, but I was ready. I pulled out my phone and started reading some of the messages out loud. The ones where they talked about me being too oblivious. The ones about waiting until my kids were older. The ones where Daniel told her he loved her. Mara started crying, saying I was taking things out of context. Daniel kept talking over me, trying to explain that those messages weren't what they looked like. I just laughed, because what else could they look like? There is no context where can't wait to be with you for real, and I love you so much, and here's a picture of exactly what I want to do to you later, means something innocent. Some of Mara's work friends left immediately, but our actual friend group stayed. And that's when things got really ugly. Daniel pulled me aside, hissed, "You're embarrassing me. We need to talk about this at home." I told him, "Absolutely not. I am done having private conversations while you lie to my face." He kept saying I was being hysterical, that people were going to think I'd lost my mind. And then Mara actually had the nerve to walk over and tell me, "I understand you're upset, but you're making a scene. Maybe we could all sit down and talk about this like adults." I almost lost it right there. She was talking to me like I was the one who had done something wrong, like I was being unreasonable for being upset that my husband had been cheating on me with her for 2 years. I told her to stay the hell away from me, that I had nothing to say to her. She started crying harder, saying this wasn't how she wanted me to find out, that she never meant to hurt me. And Daniel, right in front of me, put his hand on her back, comforting her, telling her it was okay, while I stood there watching my marriage and my friendship disintegrate in real time. Stephanie, bless her, came over and positioned herself between us. Maya just stood there, mouth agape, looking back and forth like she couldn't process what was happening. A few other friends started demanding to see the messages themselves, so I showed them. I showed everyone who wanted to see, and watching their faces as they read those texts, realizing this wasn't me being crazy, this was real. It was both validating and devastating all at once. The party ended, obviously. People left in awkward clusters. Some hugged me, saying they were sorry. A few people actually hugged Mara too, which made me want to scream, but whatever. Daniel tried to get me to leave with him. I flat out refused. I told him to go stay somewhere else because I didn't want him in our house that night. He got angry, said I couldn't just kick him out of his own home. I said, "Watch me." Stephanie offered her place, but I just wanted to be in my own house. So Daniel left with a friend and I drove home alone. That was 3 weeks ago. And honestly, things have only gotten more complicated. Daniel has been texting and calling constantly. At first, angry and defensive. "You humiliated me. You ruined Mara's birthday. You made everyone think I'm a monster." Then, after a few days, he switched to apologetic. "I'm sorry. I want to work things out. I'll do whatever it takes." He keeps saying it was a mistake, that he still loves me, our family, doesn't want to throw away 7 years of marriage. But when I asked him if he was willing to cut Mara out of his life completely, he couldn't give me a straight answer. "It's complicated," he said. "I care about her, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you too." He actually said they'd developed feelings over time, and he couldn't just turn those off overnight. But he was choosing our family, and that should be enough. It's not enough. How am I supposed to believe he's committed to working on our marriage if he can't even commit to not talking to the woman he cheated on me with? And Mara, she's been trying to reach out too, sending these long messages about how she never meant for any of this to happen, how she valued our friendship, how sorry she is. She even had the audacity to say she thinks we could all move past this eventually, if I was willing to try. I haven't responded. I blocked her on everything except my regular text because my lawyer said to keep records. Our friend group is a complete mess now. Some people are fully on my side. Stephanie and Maya have been amazing. But there are others who think that while what Daniel and Mara did was wrong, I handled the situation badly by airing everything out at the party. Well, you didn't have to do it so publicly, or you could have talked to them privately first. One guy, Steve, a friend of Daniel's, actually told me, maybe if you'd been paying more attention to your marriage, this wouldn't have happened. I almost threw my drink in his face. Imagine having the audacity to blame me for not preventing his cheating. Like it was my job to be so perfect that my husband wouldn't want to sleep with my best friend for 2 literal years. Daniel is still talking to her. I know because mutual friends have mentioned seeing them together. He's not even trying to hide it anymore. When I confronted him, he said, "Since you're already planning to divorce me anyway, I don't see the point in pretending." But then, in the same conversation, he'll say he still wants to work things out and asks if we can go to counseling. I don't understand how those two things can exist at the same time in his brain. You can't say you want to save your marriage while actively continuing the relationship that destroyed it. My mom thinks I should file for divorce immediately. My dad says I need to think about the kids and try counseling. My sister told me to burn all his stuff in the front yard. The lawyer says I'm in a decent position with documented proof. But Daniel is pushing hard for us to try to work things out before I make any legal moves. He showed up at the house yesterday. The kids were with my mom. He spent 2 hours trying to convince me that what he and Mara have isn't real love, that it's just something that happened, and that our marriage is worth fighting for. I asked him why I should believe anything he says when he lied to me for 2 years. He said he knows he messed up, but people make mistakes. And I need to decide if I'm going to let one mistake define our whole relationship. I pointed out that it wasn't one mistake. It was 2 years of continuous, deliberate choices to lie and cheat, and plan a future with someone else while pretending to be happy with me. He left around 10. But before he did, he said something that's been stuck in my head ever since. He said that Mara told him I was going to react this way, that I would never be able to get past it. Like they discussed how I would respond to being betrayed. Like my reaction was something they'd factored into their plans. I needed answers. Real answers. Not because I wanted to forgive him, but because I needed to understand how I lived a lie for 2 years without seeing it. My brain wouldn't stop spinning, and I figured the only way to make it stop was to get the full truth, even if it destroyed me. I told him he could come over Sunday night. Kids were at my mom's. I knew this was going to get ugly. He showed up at 8 and the first thing he did was try to hug me. Like we were friends. Like everything was fine. I stepped back so fast I almost tripped. I told him to sit down and keep his hands to himself. He looked hurt and I swear I almost laughed in his face. He was hurt by me not wanting a hug. He sat on the couch and started his whole speech about how sorry he was. How these past few weeks had been the hardest of his life. How he couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, blah blah blah. I let him talk for maybe 2 minutes before I couldn't take it anymore. I told him to shut up. I said I didn't want his apologies, they meant nothing. I wanted answers. Real answers. And if he was going to sit here and feed me more BS, he could get out right now. He looked shocked. I don't think I'd ever told him to shut up in 9 years. I asked him when exactly it started with Mara. Not the vague crap from his messages. The specific moment when my best friend became something else. He started stammering. I don't remember the exact date. I cut him off. Try harder. I said I spent 2 years not knowing what was happening in my own marriage, so the least he could do was give me actual details. He finally said it started after Ella's first birthday party. Mara stayed late to help clean up, and they talked for hours after I went to bed. He said something shifted that night. I stood up so fast the coffee table rattled. Ella's first birthday. My daughter's first birthday. While I was upstairs, exhausted from hosting a party and taking care of a 1-year-old, he was downstairs falling for my best friend on my child's birthday. He tried to say something and I told him I wasn't done. I asked when it became physical. He said, "That wasn't important. The details would only hurt you more." I screamed at him, "I am already destroyed, so you might as well finish the job. Tell me everything." He said about 4 months later, when Ella was around 16 months. Their first time was at her apartment when I thought he was at a work conference in Denver. I started pacing. I couldn't stand still. I remembered that conference. I remembered him calling me from the hotel saying he missed me and the kids. I remembered him bringing back a stuffed animal for Wyatt and a little dress for Ella. There was no conference. He spent 3 days with her and then brought my children gifts. I asked him if he bought those gifts himself, or if Mara helped pick them out. He didn't answer, which meant she did. She helped him buy presents for my kids after spending 3 days with their father. I grabbed a pillow from the couch and threw it at him. "You are disgusting." He tried to say he knew and I said, "No. You don't get to agree with me. You don't get to act like we're on the same page now. We will never be on the same page." I asked how many times. He said he didn't keep count. I said, "Yes, you did. Estimate." He said maybe once or twice a month at first, then more often. Weekly for the past 8 months or so. I did the math out loud. 50 times minimum. 50 times you slept with my best friend. 50 times you lied about where you were. 50 showers to wash her off before getting in bed with me. 50 times you looked me in the eyes afterward and acted like nothing happened. He started saying he knew it was a lot. And I told him to stop minimizing it. A lot? Like we were talking about how many drinks he had at happy hour? This was my entire life he was lying about. I asked where. Mostly her apartment, he said. Sometimes hotels when they wanted to do something special. Special? They had special occasions? Like an anniversary or something. I asked if that's what he meant and he got quiet. I asked him again if they celebrated anniversaries of their affair. And he finally said they'd gone away together for a weekend to mark 1 year. I had to hold onto the back of a chair, my legs felt so weak. I asked him when. Last October. I remembered last October. He told me he was going fishing with his buddy Steve for a long weekend. I was actually happy for him. I thought he needed guy time. Steve. I asked if Steve knew. If Steve covered for him. He said Steve knew they were having problems in their marriage, but didn't know specifically about Mara. Problems in our marriage? So he'd been telling his friends we had problems while I thought everything was fine. He was building a whole narrative where I was the bad guy so people wouldn't judge him. When he eventually left, I walked straight to the bedroom. He followed me asking what I was doing. I ripped the sheets off the bed and threw them at him. "I want these out of my house." I didn't care if it was the same sheets or not. I didn't care if I was being crazy. I wanted anything that might have touched them together out. I told him he didn't get to tell me to calm down. Calm was not an option. He backed up with his hands raised like I was some wild animal. Maybe I was. I didn't care. I asked him the question that had been destroying me. "Do you love her?" He started with his complicated and I said, "No. Not complicated. Yes or no. Do you love her?" He said yes. I felt like I'd been punched even though I knew. Even though I read it in those messages. Hearing him say it out loud was different. Then he said, "But I also love you." Like that was supposed to help. Like being loved alongside his mistress was some kind of prize. I asked which one of us he loved more, and he said that wasn't fair. I said, "Life isn't fair. Answer the question." He said he couldn't compare, because they were different kinds of love. What he had with me was history and family and comfort. What he had with Mara was passion and excitement and feeling seen. I grabbed the closest thing, which was a water glass from the nightstand, and threw it against the wall. It shattered. Daniel jumped back. I didn't even care about the mess. Feeling seen. He felt seen by her? Like I was furniture? Like I was just there in the background while Mara was the one who truly understood him? I asked if I made him feel invisible. And he started going on about how after we had kids, I became so focused on being a mother that I stopped being his wife. That he tried to talk to me about feeling disconnected. But I was always tired or busy. I got right in his face, close enough that he backed up against the wall. I told him, "I was tired because I was raising your children. I was busy because I was holding our family together while working and managing a house and being everything to everyone. And instead of helping me or talking to me like an adult, you went and found someone with no responsibilities who had all the time in the world to make you feel special. He said he knew that now, and he made the wrong choice. And I said, no, you didn't make a wrong choice. You made 2 years of wrong choices. Every single day you woke up and chose to keep lying. That was a lifestyle. I asked him why he didn't just leave me. If he was so unhappy, if Mara was so amazing, why stay? And here's what this coward said. He said he didn't want to lose the kids. That if he left me for another woman, I'd make the divorce ugly, and he'd end up being a weekend dad. He said he was scared, so I was his safety net, his comfortable backup plan. He got to have his exciting, passionate love with Mara while I kept his life running and his kids taken care of. And he stayed not because he loved me but because leaving was too complicated. I told him to get out. He tried to keep talking, and I opened the bedroom door and pointed. Get out. Now. He left, but said he still wanted to work things out and he'd give me space. The next few days I focused on practical stuff. Met with my lawyer and told her I wanted to actually file, not just explore options. She started preparing paperwork. Then on Thursday I had lunch with Stephanie and Maya. They told me something that made me want to flip the table at the restaurant. Maya had run into Daniel and Mara at the grocery store. Not hiding, not sneaking, just shopping together like a couple. Mara rushed off when she saw Maya, but Daniel actually came over to say hi. Like nothing was weird. Like he wasn't pushing a cart with his mistress. I called Daniel the second I got home. Didn't even take my jacket off. I asked him if he'd been seeing Mara and he tried to say, it wasn't what I thought. I told him to cut the BS. Had he or had he not been spending time with her? Yes or no? He admitted yes. They'd seen each other a few times to talk about everything that was happening. I asked what the hell they needed to talk about. The affair was exposed. It was over. What conversations could they possibly need to have? He said he couldn't just cut off someone he'd been close to for 2 years. That they needed to figure out how to handle things. I told him that was the most pathetic excuse I'd ever heard. He couldn't tell me he wanted to save our marriage while going grocery shopping with his girlfriend. That's not how this works. He said I was being unreasonable. That I expected him to flip a switch on 2 years of feeling. Unreasonable? I was being unreasonable for expecting my husband to stop hanging out with the woman he cheated on me with? He said I was backing him into a corner. And I said he backed himself into that corner when he decided to screw my best friend. I was just refusing to let him escape. We argued for another 20 minutes. Him saying I wasn't being fair. Me saying fair died when he started his affair. Finally, he said he'd talk to Mara tomorrow and end it. I said I'd believe it when I saw it. That was Thursday. Friday, nothing from him. Saturday morning, Stephanie texted me a screenshot. Mara had posted a picture on Instagram of her and Daniel at some bar, sitting close. She deleted it after 20 minutes, but Stephanie caught it. This was after he said he'd end things. Then Daniel texted me a long message about how he'd been thinking and I was right. And he was choosing his family. He sent that after spending the day with her. After the Instagram post he thought I didn't know about. Monday morning I called my lawyer and told her to finalize everything. Papers would be ready by end of week. Daniel keeps texting asking why I'm not answering, saying he meant what he said, asking to talk. I finally texted back this morning. Told him he could come over tomorrow at noon, but I'm not meeting him to talk about working things out. The divorce papers will be sitting on the kitchen counter when he walks in. He wanted time to figure things out. Well, I figured things out too. I figured out I deserve better than being someone's safe option while he loves someone else. Tomorrow I end this. Okay, so the conversation happened. Daniel came over around noon. Kids were at my mom's. I had the divorce papers sitting on the kitchen counter. I wanted him to see them the second he walked in. And he did. He asked if I was serious and I said, completely serious. I told him I was done with the conversations that went nowhere. Done waiting for him to magically become a different person. Done being the only one actually trying to save something he destroyed. And instead of apologizing or begging like he'd been doing for weeks, he got mad. He said I was throwing away our family over my pride. That I cared more about being right than about keeping our kids in an intact home. He said Wyatt and Ella were going to grow up in a broken family because I couldn't get over myself. I told him our family was already broken the second he started sleeping with Mara. And he said, "No, it was broken the second you decided to humiliate me at that party instead of handling things privately like an adult." We were still on that. He was still mad about the party. I asked him if he seriously thought exposing him was worse than what he did. And he said, "It wasn't about worse. It was about the fact that you made a choice to destroy his reputation and his relationship with our friends when you could have come to him first." He said I wanted revenge more than I wanted our marriage. I told him I found out my husband was planning to leave me for my best friend, and his main concern was how it made him look. He started arguing that wasn't what he meant, but I talked over him because I was done letting him redirect every conversation. Then I brought up the Instagram post. Mara posting that picture of them at the bar the same day he texted me saying he was choosing his family. I asked him to explain that. He said he went to tell her it was over, that the picture was from before they talked, that she was upset and posted it without thinking, and then deleted it when she realized. I asked why they were taking cute pictures together if he went there to end things, and he got quiet. Then he said, "Because it wasn't that simple. Because they've been together for 2 years. And you don't just end something like that in one conversation." Because he owed her an explanation and some closure. He owed her. The woman who helped him cheat on me for 2 years, he owed her something. I asked him straight up, "Did you tell her you loved her during that conversation?" And he said I was trying to trap him with questions. I said, "No. I am trying to get a straight answer for once in my life. Did you or did you not tell Mara you loved her when you went to quote-unquote end things?" He wouldn't answer. He kept saying it wasn't relevant. And I kept pushing until finally he admitted that yes, he told her he cared about her deeply, and that part of him would always love her, but that he was choosing his family. Part of him would always love her. That was his version of ending things. That was him choosing his family. I laughed. I told him that wasn't choosing me. That was keeping his options open while trying to have it both ways. And then he said something that made me want to flip the table. He said that I needed to accept that feelings don't just disappear. That he spent 2 years building something with Mara, and those feelings were real even if the situation was wrong. He said that if I expected him to pretend she meant nothing to him, then I was asking him to lie again. And wasn't the whole point that we were supposed to be honest now? So his argument was that I should appreciate him being honest about still having feelings for his mistress. Like I was supposed to be grateful he wasn't hiding it anymore. I told him to get out. And he said no. He said he wasn't leaving until we actually resolved something because he was tired of every conversation ending with me shutting down. He said I owed it to our kids to at least try. That's when I screamed at him. That he didn't get to talk about what I owed our kids. That I was the one who held this family together while he was off with Mara. That I was the one who would have to explain to Wyatt why Daddy doesn't live with us anymore. That I was the one who watched Ella cry because she didn't understand why everything felt different. I told him he forfeited his right to lecture me about our children when he chose to build a secret life with someone else instead of being present in the life he already had. He tried to interrupt and I told him to shut up. I told him I knew about the timeline. The messages where he and Mara discussed waiting until Ella was in school full-time. The plans they made for how they'd eventually be together publicly. I told him he didn't get caught in some accidental emotional affair. He made a plan to leave his family, and the only reason he was here begging for another chance was because he got exposed before he was ready. He tried to deny that the timeline was serious, said they were just talking, just imagining possibilities, that it didn't mean he was actually going to do it. And I asked him why he would discuss it at all if he wasn't planning on following through. Why have that conversation with Mara if leaving me wasn't something he genuinely wanted? Then I asked him one more thing. I asked him if Mara hadn't been caught, if I'd never found that phone, would he still be with her right now? Would he still be lying to me? Would he have eventually left like they planned? He said he didn't know. He said he tried not to think about it. He said things were complicated, and he couldn't say for sure what he would have done. That was his answer. He couldn't say for sure that he wouldn't have left me for her. Even now, standing in our kitchen trying to save our marriage, he couldn't commit to saying he would have stayed. I picked up the divorce papers and told him these were getting filed tomorrow. I told him he could send his lawyer's information to mine. I told him we could work out custody through mediation, but I was done having conversations like this. He grabbed my arm and said I was making a mistake I couldn't take back. That once this was done, it was done, and our family would never be the same. I told him our family was never going to be the same the moment he chose her. And I told him to get out of my house. He left. But before he did, he turned around and said that Mara was the one who wanted to tell me, that she'd been pushing him to come clean for months, and he was the one who kept saying no. Like that was supposed to make me feel something. Like knowing she wanted to confess was supposed to make any of this better. I slammed the door behind him. The papers are getting filed tomorrow morning. I already confirmed with my lawyer. What gets me is that even at the very end he couldn't just own it. He had to throw in that thing about Mara wanting to tell me. He had to make her seem like less of a villain. Even while trying to save his marriage, he was still protecting her. That tells me everything I need to know about who he actually chose. Concluding shot. Narrator looks directly at the camera. A tear perhaps, but with a new strength in their eyes. A slight pause, then a genuine, raw question. Have any of you ever been blindsided like this? Or faced a betrayal that left you questioning everything you thought was real? What would you have done differently in my shoes? I'm honestly still trying to process it all. And I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.